off. You're not supposed to. You heard Jim? Huh? You cut the lights off.
Surveillance footage blew up online after catching Jim Jones kicking down a locked Bronx studio door. And not even a day later, 50 Cent wasted no time posting that same video. He dropped it with a lease termination notice and boldly claimed he owns the whole building now. But the real shocker came from how Jim fired back at 50's trolling. His response had everyone talking. It all started on February 20th, 2026, when 50 Cent uploaded the clip to Instagram. The timestamp showed it was from February 19th, just one day earlier. In the video, a man in the hallway kept kicking and slamming into a locked studio door until it finally burst open, and that man was clearly Jim Jones. The caption on 50's post said it all before viewers even hit play. The building in question, the IFC Factory, short for Intellectual Factory of Content, right in the Bronx. That spot isn't just a random space, it's the home of the hit podcast Let's Rap About It, co-hosted by Jim Jones, Fabulous, Dave East, and Mayo. It's where they record, film, and drop episodes. It's their entire operation. But 50 didn't just post one angle, oh no. He came with multiple camera views. Footage from every corner of that hallway hit the internet, all showing Jim forcing that door open. And to top it off, 50 attached a lease termination notice addressed to Joseph Jones, Jim's real name. The notice revealed that the lease had officially been dead since January 22nd, after a 15-day default warning dated around January 5th. So by the time Jim was caught on camera that night, he technically had no right to even be there. Jim's comeback came fast. No denial, no press release, just a video. He appeared in the exact same outfit from the security footage. Same dark clothes, same boots. But this time, he was out in the open, chopping wood with kung fu-style moves while The Last Dragon played on a massive screen behind him. The caption, it sparked the viral phrase of the week, Kung Fu Jim. Within hours, the memes went crazy. Clips spread across Instagram, YouTube, and X, pulling in millions of views before the night even ended. But here's the thing, this moment wasn't some random outburst or coincidence, nope. This was the latest round in a long-running feud between 50 Cent and the Let's Rap About It crew. Their beef had been brewing since late 2025 when the podcast threw some shady comments at 50's business moves. Instead of brushing it off, 50 decided he was going to turn it into a full-blown public showdown, and this footage was his latest move in that ongoing game of one-upsmanship. That one comment when the Let's Rap About It crew called 50 Cent's Netflix documentary a mockumentary was the spark that lit the whole fuse. Everything that followed, the leaked audio, the rent rumors, the alleged building buyout, and that explosive surveillance footage turned into a full-on blaze of drama. And by February 20th, 2026, the fire was burning right in front of the entire internet. That single day told the whole story of how wild this beef had gotten. First came the surveillance videos, then came the lease termination notice, and just hours later, 50 dropped another bomb. He posted a photo with a man named Sam, who he described as the real owner of the building. 50 wrote in the caption, "Sam is my partner. I own the joint. Now you gonna fix every door you kick, or I'ma kick you, Jimmy. By Monday, you destroying my property." In just one day, 50 flipped the whole situation, from clowning Jim online to claiming he was now Jim Jones's landlord. It was wild. And Jim's response? Classic. He didn't panic or explain. He hopped on his Instagram story and wrote, "Give me a second. I'm trying to figure out what I need to promote while I got the spotlight." That one line showed he wasn't running from the heat. He was ready to turn the smoke into a marketing moment. Two men, one viral video, but totally different reactions. That's exactly what sent this story into overdrive across the internet. The contrast between 50 Cent and Jim Jones turned a simple clip into a full-blown cultural moment, and now it's time to break it all down piece by piece. It all started way before that door-kicking footage ever hit the web. It goes back to one simple thing, the mockumentary comment. To really understand why Jim was even at that building and why 50 was ready to post receipts, you gotta trace the timeline all the way back. This whole feud actually kicked off with a Netflix documentary. In late 2025, 50 Cent dropped his own doc on Netflix, one he fully produced and promoted like crazy. Then, during an episode of Let's Rap About It, Jim Jones and his co-host decided to watch it live and air their thoughts on air, and that's where things took a turn.
You're not supposed to. You heard Jim? Huh? You cut the lights off.
They called it a mockumentary, and that word hit deep. It wasn't just shade, it was a straight-up challenge. Calling something a mockumentary doesn't just mean it's bad, it means the whole thing is fake. It's like saying what you're watching isn't real journalism, but a performance pretending to be serious work. Basically, they said 50 Cent's documentary was a joke dressed as truth. When 50 heard that, he didn't clap back with a diss track or go on some press run. He went straight for the jugular the way only 50 does, through business. He started posting leaked audio, supposedly from talks with Sam, the owner of the IFC factory building. In that audio, Sam could be heard talking about how much back rent the Let's Rap About It crew allegedly owed, and the numbers flying around were wild. Claims range from $80,000 to $180,000, with some early posts hitting it might have hit as high as $250,000. 50's message was clear and cold. You want to question my work? Let's talk about your bills. He flipped the narrative instantly, from defending his art to exposing someone else's finances. The strategy was genius and savage at the same time. Instead of rapping about it, 50 said, let's see if you can even afford the room you're sitting in. The rent drama became his weapon, and he swung it non-stop. Then came the next move. Reports claimed Jim Jones wired around $200,000 to cover part of the debt. 50 didn't miss a beat. He jumped online joking, maybe he'll be a good tenant after all. He even played around about buying the building outright, just to flex that he could literally become Jones's landlord. The memes started rolling out like clockwork. 50 tagged Jim in every post, poking fun, keeping his name hot. And this went on for months. By January 2026, even Cameron, fellow Dipset member, joined the circus, clowning about how the studio didn't even have heat during the coldest stretch of winter. Of course, 50 reposted that too, boosting every jab. Slowly, a storyline formed online. People saw the Let's Rap About It crew as a group falling behind on rent, but still podcasting from a space they might not even control anymore. 50 painted the picture perfectly, a crew talking big, but maybe struggling behind the scenes. Jim tried to flip the script. He dropped a video tour showing what looked like an expanded facility, trying to sell it as growth, not struggle. But the issue wouldn't die. The rent, the lease, the ownership, all of it kept circling back. Every time Jim addressed it, the topic caught fire again. And here's where 50's strategy really stood out. This wasn't about rap. He wasn't challenging Jim to a versus or dropping a diss track. Now he turned it into a landlord versus tenant story, a battle about accountability. Every post screamed one message: you came from my work while not paying your rent. That framing was brutal because it trapped Jim in a corner. If he fired back emotionally, 50 could spin it as guilt. If he stayed silent, 50 kept the pressure on with more receipts and more jokes. There was no clean way out, only escalation or deflection. Then came February 19th, the night when everything hit the fan. Sometime that evening, surveillance cameras inside the IFC factory caught Jim Jones in the hallway. The lease had been dead for weeks. The door was locked tight, and instead of waiting, Jim reportedly started kicking at it hard. He hit it with his foot, his shoulder, whatever it took until it popped open. Why did he do it? No one knows for sure. Maybe he had equipment inside, maybe he needed to grab something for a recording session. Whatever the reason, that footage existed, and the very next day, 50 Cent, who had been building to this moment for months, got his hands on it and unleashed it on the internet. The lease termination notice that 50 Cent posted next to that viral footage spelled everything out in black and white. It referenced a 15-day default notice sent around January 5th, 2026, with a deadline to fix things by January 22nd. That means by the time February 19th rolled around, the night Jim Jones was caught on camera, the lease had already been dead for nearly 4 weeks. This wasn't some random lockout or sudden eviction. It was the grand finale of a situation that had been falling apart for months. So what looked like a shocking clip was really just the ending to a long process that had started way back in October 2025. So when 50 Cent dropped those clips on February 20th, he wasn't just clowning Jim for a moment. He was closing a chapter he'd been writing in public for months. Every post, every meme, every leaked audio, it all led to this one visual. Jim Jones caught on camera, kicking his way into a studio he apparently no longer had rights to enter. That single image hit harder than any diss track could. It summed up months of tension in one moment, a superstar rapper breaking down a locked door to a place that technically wasn't his anymore. But the big question now was what happened next, and more importantly, who really came out on top, because 50 wasn't done yet. The footage alone was damaging enough, but he pushed things even further. Within hours of posting the surveillance videos, 50 escalated again, this time not just showing evidence of what Jim had done, but making a bold declaration about where he now stood in the whole saga. It wasn't just about the building anymore, it was about power, ownership, and who really ran the show.
Then came the post that flipped the whole situation upside down. 50 Cent dropped a photo of himself standing next to the building's owner, Sam, with a caption that shook social media. "Sam is my partner. I own the joint. Now you gonna fix every door you kick, or I'ma kick you, Jimmy. By Monday, you're destroying my property." Let that sink in. In just one afternoon, 50 went from posting footage of Jim Jones's embarrassing door-kicking moment to publicly declaring that he was now part owner of the very building where it happened. The internet exploded. Overnight, the story shifted from Jim Jones caught breaking into his studio to Jim Jones's new landlord is 50 Cent. This wasn't random trolling, it was a calculated business move. Reports had already been circulating that the Let's Rap About It crew owed serious back rent, anywhere between $80,000 and $180,000, and had been in back and forth talks with the landlord since at least October 2025. 50 had been dropping jokes for months about buying the building, and now it looked like he'd actually done it, or at least cut a deal with the real owner. Even though as of February 25, 2026, there were no verified deeds or contracts publicly confirming 50's ownership, the damage was already done. The effect was instant. It flipped the entire narrative. What started as a petty social media beef had suddenly turned into a business power play. Now, every time Jim Jones tried to walk into that studio, it wasn't just a workspace, it was 50 Cent's territory. That's psychological warfare at its finest. The ultimatum, fix every door by Monday, added another layer of pressure. It turned the feud into a countdown, something fans could watch in real time. Everyone wanted to know, would Jim fix the doors? Would he ignore the threat? Or would 50 actually make good on it? The clock was ticking, and the tension was thick. But here's the real genius of it. 50 didn't just make Jim look like a rival, he made him look like a tenant taking orders from his tormentor. The optics were brutal, and 50 knew exactly what he was doing. He's built an entire reputation on turning receipts into weapons and using business leverage like it's a diss track. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment stunt. It followed 50's signature formula. Collect the receipts, post strategically, add business leverage, set a public deadline. He's used that same pattern in other rivalries, but this time, everything was literal. The receipts were actual surveillance footage. The business leverage was real property co-ownership. And the public deadline, that was tied to physical damage on real doors. And just when fans thought the story couldn't get any more layered, 50 dropped one last touch. The caption on that original post. It read, "Damn, bro. This wouldn't happen if we was friends. Wanna be? I don't know. Let's rap about it. LOL." That line hit like a punch wrapped in a smile. It flipped the podcast's own name, Let's Rap About It, into the punchline of the entire scandal. It wasn't angry, it wasn't threatening, it was mocking, smooth and casual, and that's exactly what made it sting. 50 didn't have to raise his voice. He let the tone, the timing, and the business move do all the talking. That little LOL at the end of 50 Cent's caption said it all. It was more than a laugh, it was a signal. It showed he wasn't pressed, he wasn't bothered, he was amused. That calm confidence broadcasted to millions was part of the flex. 50 didn't just post a burn, he made it clear he was enjoying the show. And the internet couldn't look away. Major hip-hop media outlets and personalities like DJ Academics and others covered the story non-stop. Some called it peak pettiness, while others pointed out the deeper side of it, the business angle behind lease terminations, property damage, and public humiliation all wrapped into one viral moment. Within hours, the clip spread like wildfire across YouTube and Instagram, racking up millions of combined views. Headlines got more and more dramatic. Some even claimed Jim Jones could be facing jail time for breaking in. But by February 25, 2026, there were no verified reports of any criminal charges or official lawsuits. It was all speculation. No paperwork, no court filings, no police reports.
And that's exactly what makes 50's move so brilliant. What he pulled off wasn't a legal strike, it was a digital one. This wasn't about courtrooms or contracts, it was a social media campaign crafted with the precision of a legal takedown. Every single post had a purpose and built perfectly on the last. First came the leaked audio, setting up the debt narrative. Then came the Cameron memes, adding comedy and humiliation to the story. The surveillance footage gave everyone the visuals they craved, showing a locked-out tenant breaking in. Then finally, the ownership photo flipped the entire power dynamic. And when 50 added that Monday deadline, it turned everything into a countdown that fans couldn't stop watching. By the end of February 25, 2026, 50 had done more than troll. He had built a complete storyline, piece by piece. It read like a legal case, but played like a movie. The message was clear. Here's the proof Jim Jones can't pay, and here's me, owning the place he kicked down.
Here's the lease termination, here's the break-in, here's proof I'm the landlord now, and here's the deadline. That was the structure of 50 Cent's entire rollout. It wasn't just a feud, it was a media masterclass disguised as beef. And it worked perfectly because the whole internet was tuned in, analyzing every update like it was an episode of a show. The only question left hanging in the air was simple. How was Jim Jones going to respond? And the answer he gave was something 50's entire strategy wasn't built to handle. Jim flipped the energy and made himself look like the one having fun. Welcome to the era of Kung Fu Jim and the free promo flip. By the afternoon of February 20th, 2026, Jim Jones's name was everywhere. The surveillance footage had gone viral. The lease notice, complete with his legal name, was being passed around on every social feed. 50 had just announced to millions of followers that he was somehow tied to the building Jim had been locked out of. Most people in that situation would have gone quiet, maybe called a lawyer or fired back in anger. But Jim, he dropped a Kung Fu video instead. The clip was short, about 20 seconds, but powerful. In what looked like the same studio space, Jim Jones stood confidently, wearing the exact same outfit from the surveillance footage, same dark gear, same boots, same energy. He looked right at the camera, then started performing exaggerated kung fu moves, hand chops, flying kicks, and dramatic wood-breaking gestures, all while a huge TV screen behind him played The Last Dragon, the 1985 martial arts cult classic starring Taimak. That movie is a staple in hip-hop culture, known for blending kung fu energy with black identity and street humor. So Jim's choice wasn't random, it was symbolic. He was turning what looked like a humiliating moment into a cultural callback, something fans could rally around and laugh with instead of at. The caption sealed the deal. Kung Fu Jim is what they call him. I need you. Good movie to watch. On this big screen, we got cable, LOL. That one post did two things brilliantly. First, by pointing out the big screen and cable, Jim subtly clapped back at all the rent and financial struggle rumors, showing that the space was still equipped, still functioning, still his spot. Second, he kept it lighthearted. No defensive rant, no mention of 50 by name, just laughter and confidence. The message was loud and clear. I'm not stressed. I'm chilling. I'm watching a movie. Hip-hop outlets noticed the play right away. Fans caught on to the fact that he wore the same outfit from the footage. It wasn't an accident. Jim was deliberately linking his response to 50's post, but flipping the tone completely. Instead of embarrassment, he leaned into it with swagger and self-awareness. He turned himself into a character, Kung Fu Jim, and it worked. The same physical act that once looked desperate, kicking down a door, was now the origin story of a persona. Jim wasn't hiding from the footage, he was owning it. Within hours, the clip was everywhere, reposted by DJ Academics, The Shade Room, XXL, and countless fan accounts. The comment sections flooded with jokes, memes, and praise for how creative the response was. The tone had shifted completely. Nobody was saying Jim Jones got caught. Instead, the internet was chanting Kung Fu Jim, no locked doors. That overnight transformation from exposure to empowerment was genius. Jim turned what should have been a reputation hit into a marketing moment. And he wasn't done yet. Later that same day, just hours after 50 Cent posted the photo with Sam and claimed partial ownership of the building, Jim went back online with another post on his Instagram story. This time, it wasn't a video. It was a simple, perfectly timed line. Give me a second. I'm trying to figure out what I need to promo while I got the spotlight again. That was the knockout move.
With one sentence, Jim showed he wasn't bothered by 50's flex. He was grateful for the publicity. He flipped the beef into free promotion, turning every headline about his so-called embarrassment into a new opportunity. In a single day, the roles reversed. 50 built a storyline to make Jim look like a failed tenant, but Jim turned himself into a meme, a persona, and a trending topic on his own terms. It was no longer a battle over rent or property. It was a battle for control of the narrative. And for once, Jim Jones was laughing louder than 50 Cent.
In a follow-up Instagram story, Jim Jones made his message crystal clear. Screenshots spread everywhere showing text that read, "This fool promoting me for free." He called it the series with laughs. Got it. IFC news coming soon, LOL. That quick post summed up his entire approach. He wasn't denying the footage, the lease issue, or 50 Cent's ownership claim. Instead, he flipped the whole situation into a marketing win. To Jim, 50 wasn't giving him problems, he was giving him publicity. It was a slick move, perfectly aligned with Jim's history of turning drama into entertainment. He didn't lash out or hide. He leaned in with humor, speed, and confidence. Within hours of the footage dropping, he'd already dropped a response video and matching clothes, created his new Kung Fu Jim persona, linked it to The Last Dragon for cultural flair, proved the studio still looked functional, and rebranded 50's trolling as free promo for new content. That's not luck, that's strategy. Jim handled it like someone who thought through every move. By keeping it playful instead of hostile, he avoided escalating things legally or personally while keeping fans entertained and the podcast relevant. Hip-hop blogs called it hilarious trolling and marketing genius. Reaction videos flooded YouTube, celebrating how Jim turned an eviction narrative into a self-promo moment. And by February 25, 2026, no new conflict has surfaced, just laughter, memes, and millions of views. Of course, the videos didn't fix the lease or pay the rent. 50's Monday deadline was still hanging in the air. Beneath all the memes and kung fu jokes, the real-world dispute over the IFC factory, the podcast's home base for Jim Jones, Fabulous, Dave East, and Mayo, still loomed large. The online fun didn't erase the real financial stakes waiting off camera. Losing access to the IFC factory would have been a major hit for the Let's Rap About It podcast. It's where Jim Jones, Fabulous, Dave East, and Mayo produced and distributed their content. Rumors about back rent first surfaced in December 2025, shortly after the crew critiqued 50 Cent's Netflix documentary. Reported figures range from $80,000 to $180,000, with some claiming it reached $250,000, though none of those numbers were ever verified in court. Jones reportedly wired about $200,000 toward the debt, confirming the dispute was real, even if the remaining balance stayed unclear. The lease termination notice, posted by 50 alongside the viral footage, referenced a 15-day default warning from January 5, 2026, with the grace period ending January 22nd. That meant by February 19th, the tenancy was officially terminated. However, under New York City tenant law, things aren't that simple. Landlords can't just change locks or block access without a court order and a marshal's involvement. Doing so can count as an illegal lockout even if rent is overdue. Some unconfirmed reports claimed police were called to the studio after the door incident and may have allowed Jones back inside, suggesting that legally he might still have rights to enter until a formal eviction went through the courts. Jim Jones has kept posting from inside the IFC factory, showing himself entering through the garage and promoting it as a live hub for music, fashion, and media. Whether that means he still holds a valid lease, struck a temporary deal, or is just moving through space he's no longer entitled to, remained unclear by February 25, 2026. As for 50 Cent's ownership claim, it seemed to rest mainly on that photo with Sam, the building's owner. No verified deeds, contracts, or partnership documents were ever made public. So far, the claim exists more on Instagram than in official records. By that same date, no lawsuits or eviction filings has surfaced in any major outlets, and 50's hype ultimatum, "Fix every door by Monday," still hung in the air, unanswered and unresolved. The Monday deadline came and went with no confirmed updates from either side. Whether Jim Jones made the repairs, whether 50 Cent enforced his ultimatum, or whether Sam and Jones reached a new agreement, none of it entered the public record. In the days following the footage, the reactions were split. On one side, social media celebrated the entertainment value.
50's trolling, Jones's Kung Fu Gym video, the memes and reaction clips that racked up millions of views. On the other side, there was a quieter conversation, one about what this situation revealed for independent content creators in New York and why the spotlight fell so heavily on Jones when Let's Rap About It has multiple co-hosts. Some users question why Fabulous, Dave East, and Mayo weren't equally associated with the financial or public fallout, since all share the same studio space. Others pointed out the real-world challenge of maintaining a high-production podcast in one of the most expensive cities for commercial real estate. The show's format, multi-host, in-studio, production-heavy, demands resources that many independent ventures can't easily sustain. When revenue dips, financial strain follows. In this narrative, 50 Cent positions himself as the shy businessman exposing lapses in accountability, while Jim Jones turns each setback into a branding moment, reframing drama as opportunity. But neither perspective captures the entire truth. The full picture is that a Bronx-based podcast team built something substantial, got caught in a very public dispute with one of the industry's most strategic figures, and had their financial struggles turned into online spectacle. As of February 25, 2026, the situation remains unresolved, legally, financially, and operationally. Right now, the situation sits in limbo, caught somewhere between an eviction battle that hasn't hit the courthouse and a social media war that hasn't reached a real ending. The Kung Fu Gym persona might keep people entertained, and that teased IFC news coming soon could turn into something worth watching. But one thing's for sure, when the memes fade, the rent still has to be paid. What happens next for the IFC Factory and the Let's Rap About It podcast depends on what goes down in boardrooms and courtrooms, not on Instagram stories. The cameras caught Jim Jones kicking down that door, but they haven't caught what's coming after. The real story is still unfolding. That wraps up this video. For more deep dives into stories shaking up the culture, check out the cards on your screen. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share to keep up with every twist, turn, and scandal that drops next.